to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. WG Financial Group is an independent financial services firm that helps people create retirement strategies using a variety of insurance and investment products. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. WG Financial Group is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. This information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial Group. This radio show is a paid placement.
In a world filled with fake news, propaganda, and disinformation.
This brand new research by Gallup says American trust in the mass media is at its lowest point since 2016 and near a record low overall.
You can always rely on Alabama's most trusted journalist, Dale Jackson.
Who told you this was going to happen? I told you this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen, and I told you this was going to happen.
The Dale Jackson Show, only on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Depend on it.
Devastation in Kentucky after severe flooding has destroyed homes and businesses. The governor now says at least 25 people have died.
The president has approved a disaster declaration for the area, clearing the way for federal resources and support to come in and start to help these folks. Meanwhile, the governor here pleading for any kind of donations, water, cleaning supplies, anything folks can spare.
ABC's Mola Lengi in Hindman, Kentucky. Rescue operations continue. Officials fear the death toll may continue rising. Someone out there is waking up to a whole new reality after Mega Millions says just one winning ticket was sold in last night's $1.28 billion lottery drawing. The winning ticket was sold in Illinois. The lump sum take-home is $747 million before taxes. The first grain shipments set to begin since the beginning of the war in Ukraine have been loaded onto freighters at Ukrainian ports on the Black Sea. This comes following a tenuous deal between Russia and Ukraine to allow food shipments. I'm Mark Remillard, ABC News.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
A battle in the heart of Alabama caught our attention. Coal miners in one community, they've been on strike now for months.
Working as long as 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, in some of the most dangerous conditions.
I really think that the labor movement is the single greatest force for democracy in the history of the United States.
The story of Alabama is a story of not just resilience, but of militancy.
I say no contract, you say no code. No contract, no contract.
If we ain't all free, ain't none of us free.
You're listening to Alabama's only union talk radio show, The Valley Labor Report, with Adam Keller and Jacob Morrison.
Hello, Tennessee Valley. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host and fellow agitator, Adam Keller, and we are broadcasting live online and on the radio from the heart of the Tennessee Valley, the Spice Radio Studio in Huntsville, Alabama. Today on the program, updates on the coal miners' strike and child labor in Alabama. We'll be lamenting the fall of local news, talking about the material consequences of the culture war, and more on today's program. If you want to be part of the show today, we've got a phone number and the line is open. You can call or text 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. You can also leave a voicemail throughout the week, and we might play it on the next program. If you haven't gotten enough of us by the time that we wrap here on the radio, or if you just want to see what we're up to throughout the week, you can find us online. We're anywhere you find anything online, all at the Valley Labor Report. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, TikTok. Just search for the Valley Labor Report and you'll be able to find us. Just a reminder, your support helps us stay on the air. Our largest single source of funding comes directly from our listeners. So we couldn't do it without you. It costs money to be on commercial radio. We don't take any of that money as wages for ourselves. This is a labor of love. We do it on a volunteer basis. All of the money goes to the running of the show, paying the stations to be on the air. And so yeah, that's what it goes to. If you want to be if you want to become a sustaining member of the program, make a one-time donation, buy our new hat, or pre-order our new shirts, you can go to our website, tvlr.fm, tvlr.fm/store, or become a patron at patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report. And if you're a member of a union, you should get your local to sponsor the show. You can reach out to me for more details on that. We definitely appreciate our local union sponsors and our international union sponsors and our union-represented business sponsors and our progressive nonprofit sponsors. All of it is very important to everybody. Chipping in just a little bit here and there keeps us on the air. I mentioned that we've got a phone number and the line is open. The phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. You can call or text, and we'll be able to get it. And we will start the show with a text from last week right after the show. It's from Penny in Connecticut. Penny says, wow, I haven't been able to watch live when you were broadcasting in quite a while, and you read my YouTube chat and my text. Indeed, I did, Penny. And she was the one last week, if you remember, whose granddaughter is going to be in, it lobbied for her school to do the play Newsies, since they've got some kind of contract with Disney or something, and it has to be like a Disney play. And so she wanted to do something more important, more interesting, more relevant than just a princess being saved. So she wanted to do Newsies, which is a show about like a newspaper strike, which is pretty cool. She says, the musical is for the upcoming school year, so the performance won't be until March or April, but I will definitely send some video when it happens. I really appreciate everything you guys do. I've been a regular listener since the start of the Warrior Met strike, when I saw Jacob on another show promoting ways to support the miners and their families. I live in Connecticut, but I think that the issues that you and your guests cover are relevant for everyone. I appreciate you listening to the show. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your support of the miners. It's a very important issue.
Absolutely. Thank you, Penny. Always glad to hear from folks from other states. That's really cool.
Yeah, and really excited to see your granddaughter perform Newsies. I'm really looking forward to that. I'll hold you to it. And speaking of ways to support the miners who are on strike, they're still on strike right now. And you can still support them. You can still donate to their strike fund. You can they have they're having a school supply drive. And so if you go on Twitter, find Hayden Wright. She's the president of the Women's Auxiliary down there. Just search for her account, Hayden Wright, HAEDENWRIGHT on Twitter. Hayden Wright on Twitter, and you can donate to their school supply drive. Make sure that their kids have just as everything that they need to get to school, and that they are not they're not in any worse position than the Scabs kids. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. So go over there, donate to the Strike Pantry, donate to the Strike Fund if you can. Let's start with Last Week in Southern Labor. Let's go right into it. Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment that we do every week, mostly, where we tell you what happened in the labor movement in the South. We pull the information with permission from Jonah Furman's newsletter, Who Gets the Bird?, which compiles all this information for the entire United States. So if you want to see what's going on outside the South, then you should subscribe to that newsletter at whogetsthebird.substack.com. So with that, let's jump into new organizing for the weeks of July 14th through the 23rd. In new organizing, this has been the slowest week of new filings for a long time for Starbucks Workers United, with just 3 stores covering 56 workers filing for elections, including one in Houston, Texas. And that is definitely Definitely the slowest week in a long time for new filings for the Starbucks Workers United campaign. But just think about that, the fact that 3 Starbucks stores across the country filing for a union election is a slow week. That's a totally different place than we were in a year ago with Starbucks specifically. So very excited for those workers and looking forward to seeing them win their union election. 41 workers who make and deliver cookies for Tiff's Treats at 2 locations in Austin, Texas, are joining Workers United, or also possible they're forming an independent union with the name Workers United, as we've seen elsewhere. Big new retail brand Lululemon is on the organizing map as 33 workers in the Georgetown, D.C. location have filed for an independent union. 16 techs and installers for ADT Security in Gainesville, Florida are unionizing with IBEW Local 1205. 12 workers for what seems like a federal contractor called Inspections Experts in Nashville are joining the operating engineers, Local 369. 7 workers for building products supplier ABC Supply in Bowling Green, Kentucky are unionizing with Teamsters, Local 89. And this week, the Congressional Workers Union made it official with staffers at 8 House offices filing to unionize. Those would be Representatives Ro Khanna, Ted Lieu, Cory Bush, Chuy Garcia, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Representative Stansbury's offices. So we should be seeing some notices of voluntary recognition very soon.
Hopefully, yes.
In election wins and losses, 152 Starbucks workers this week voted to go with Workers United at 6 of 7 stores that held vote counts this week. But unfortunately, the one vote to happen in the South failed, with union supporters at a Starbucks in Winter Park, Florida, voting not to join the Starbucks Workers United union. With the wins, however, Starbucks Workers United has now officially unionized over 200 stores in 10 months. 200 stores in 10 months.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. 24 workers who make auto parts for Hercules International in Huntington, West Virginia, voted 12-10 to join the Steelworkers. 128 workers who do food sanitation at the Pilgrim's Pride poultry plant in Waco, Texas, voted 3-23, which is just a 20% turnout, not to join UFCW Local 540, though the main unit of hundreds of workers at the plant voted to join the local a year ago. Having been unrecognized by the Trump Federal Labor Relations Board, the National Association of Immigration Judges, which is affiliated with IFPTE, are pushing to restore their union recognition. And while not in the South, shout out to the first ever union at a Trader Joe's in Hadley, Massachusetts. The independent Trader Joe's United Union announced its victory in a post on Twitter, noting, "Despite the company's best efforts to bust us, our majority has never waned." A total of 45 employees voted in favor of unionizing, with 31 against. Extremely exciting news, and 2 other Trader Joe's have since filed for a union election. So hopefully the one in Huntsville follows, not in the not too distant future. In strikes and bargaining, call center workers for the Washington, D.C. Public Transit Agency, WMATA's Paratransit Service Metro Access, have authorized a strike with ATU Local 689. In Tampa, the cops with the Police Benevolence Association, the firefighters, International Association of Firefighters Local 754, and the transit workers, ATU Local 1464, all have tentative agreements with a pretty impressive wage pattern, 18.5% raises over 3 years, with 9.5% in the first year. They might actually keep up with inflation. So that's good to hear. IUE-CWA is speaking out against their big employer GE's move nationally to rebrand and split up the company. So we'll see what happens there. And finally, in internal union politics, the UAW the UAW's Constitutional Convention is now in session. The best resource that I found for keeping apprised of events is the Unite All Workers for Democracy's daily bulletins, which you can find linked in his newsletter. And I guess in honor of the convention, the 2 imprisoned former presidents of the new union were let out early. So everyone is now clear on the cost of defrauding millions of workers.
Wow. Definitely interested to see what happens out of that convention, though.
The convention just ended a couple of days ago, and I'm sure that Jonah will go over this in next week's Who Gets the Bird. But a couple of things to note. The convention started with an increase in the strike pay from $250 a week to $400 a week. And then at the convention, delegates voted to increase it again to $500 a week, which would match the mine workers' new strike pay of $500 a week. But then, get this, after that, on the last day of the convention, when they were not supposed to have any new business, after many delegates had already gone home, the administration caucus put forward a resolution to rescind that increase in strike pay. And it won. It won because so many of the delegates had already gone back home, and so they went back down to a $400 a week strike pay.
You know, I think that really reiterates the need for the reform movement to keep moving in the UAW.
Yeah.
We need a much stronger, more militant, more democratic UAW. I think that's important for not just the labor movement, really for the state of the United States. And I had a good conversation with a UAW retiree yesterday evening talking about this very thing. He was not aware of the one member, one vote, progress that has been made. But we had a long chat about some of the issues in the UAW. And this is someone who, will freely admit that the UAW saved his family and probably saved his life with the benefits and protection they provided. But he certainly experienced some of the downsides as well. So disappointed to hear that about those last minute, shenanigans at the convention. So really, really want to lift up the UAWD, Unite All Workers for Democracy, and the good work they're doing to reform the UAW to be a better, stronger, more democratic union.
Indeed.
And on this note, I'll take this moment of privilege to shout out the new members of IATSE 900 here in Huntsville, Alabama. We had our meeting Monday evening and swore in about 20 new members, and there's a couple dozen more members that are going to be sworn in next month. So way to go, IATSE 900. Great to see the local stagehands union growing.
Yep. Definitely really exciting. Looking forward to talking to some of them, some of the new folks on the show maybe at some point.
You got one of them already. Was definitely an honor to be sworn in officially on Monday. I really appreciate it. So lots of good brothers and sisters in this union, hoping for many good things ahead.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So the Alabama coal miners, like I mentioned earlier, the members of the United Mine Workers of America, have been on strike at Warrior Met Coal in Brookwood for nearly 500 days. Specifically, at time of recording, 485 days, according to striking miner Ben McCrae, who begins every day by tweeting out, "Good morning to everybody but Warrior Met Coal," with the number of days on strike. Yesterday was day 484. The resilience from those on strike has really been astounding. I talked to folks in the union, and according to the union, only 121 miners out of the original 1,000 some odd miners who went on strike have crossed the picket line after a year and a half, after almost a year and a half. That is incredibly impressive retention of people go on strike in rural Alabama, where unions are not very strong, where there's not a huge union presence. To be able to keep 80-90% of the folks who went out on strike, keep them out on strike
right
for almost 500 days,
in this economy,
Yes.
racked by inflation, like you said, in an environment that's not totally friendly, certainly with very minimal support from the political establishment. Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment. And I think really a testament to the hard work of organizing that so many of these sisters and brothers have been doing down in Brookwood.
Absolutely. Warrior Met has long been desperate to fill these positions with scabs. They've only been able to operate the mines, as I understand it, at a 20 to 30% capacity, combining the people who crossed the picket line, the scabs who crossed the picket line, who went out on strike, and then other people who are not previously affiliated with the union, people who are, in a lot of cases, coming from out of state and taking these people's jobs. Warrior Met's long been desperate to fill these positions with scabs, spending who knows how much money advertising in other states, sending people to job fairs in West Virginia and Kentucky and all over to try to get folks to scab and break the strike. Well, the name Warrior Met must be well known enough now, especially in coal mining communities, that they are having trouble finding folks willing to stab their sisters and brothers in the back and cross state lines to scab. And good on them. And shame on the ones who are doing that. As Jack London said, the author of The Iron Heel and Call of the Wild, there is nothing lower than a scab. Maybe I can pull that quote up about Jack London's scab quote. But so to address that issue, Warrior Met Coal has begun trying to hire scabs under a new name, Coal LLC, instead of under the name Warrior Met Coal. Hayden Wright, president of the Women's Auxiliary down there, broke this on Twitter last week, saying, so Warrior Met is now advertising as Coal LLC to try and recruit scabs while they refuse to negotiate in good faith with the Alabama mine workers. This is a blatant attempt to bust the union. And it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Seeing that, Elise Joshi, executive director of Gen Z for Change, amplified this, encouraging folks to apply for the position to gum up the works, to make it that much harder for Warrior Met to get scabs to fill the jobs. This is a very easy thing to do, and a way to support the strike. If you've got time, if you've been wanting to maybe support the strike, but you haven't been able to donate money, you're not in a position to do that, here's a way that you can take 30 seconds of your time and support these folks. So I would definitely encourage you to send in a fake application to this to Coal LLC, which is definitely not Warrior Met Coal. The email is lnp@email.vccs.edu. Again, the email is ln as in Nick, p@email.vccs.edu. The phone number is 276-971-3533. Again, that phone number is 276-971-3533. So if you've got the time, definitely take the time to do that. And here's that Jack London quote that I asked Adam pull it up for me. After God had finished the rattlesnake, the toad, and the vampire, he had some awful substance left with which he made a scab. A scab is a two-legged animal with a corkscrew soul, a waterlogged brain, a combination of backbone of jelly and glue. Where others have hearts, he carries a tumor of rotten principles. When a scab comes down the street, men turn their backs and angels weep in heaven, and the devil shuts the gates of hell to keep him out.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen to that. Given this information about Warrior Met scouring the countries for scabs, it's pretty clear that they're trying to do everything that they can to break the union, just like Hayden Wright said. This despite having lost over $1 billion in revenue over the course of the strike, and despite even BlackRock saying, basically, enough is enough, let's end the strike, we're losing a lot of money here. And what is the financial situation here? The price of steel has gone through the roof since the beginning of the strike. The coal that is mined down in Brookwood is not energy coal, it is metallurgical coal. Metallurgical coal, which is used in the production of steel. So the price of steel going through the roof is obviously affecting the price of this coal. So even though they are operating at only 20 to 30% capacity, they're still not actually losing money on the operation of the mines because the price of steel is so high, because the price of their product has increased so greatly. So they're not actually like losing money, quote unquote, but they are missing out on all of the money that they would be making if they could operate their mines at 100, 110, 130% capacity, right? And what that amounts to, the amount that they could have, the amount of coal that they could have brought out of Alabama operating at 100% capacity, the difference between that and what they've actually been able to bring out is over $1 billion worth of coal just in a year. Over $1 billion that they've missed out on just simply because of their their greed, their lust for power over the workers, just the idea that they would have to contend with people who have a contract, who have rights, who have safety that they can enforce, who know that they can't be fired for any reason or no reason at all. They simply don't want to have to deal with people like that. And so they're willing to miss out on $1 billion. They've even said in negotiations in public, they have the money to pay these people. They have that and more to pay these people what they're asking for, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it because they're evil. Because they're evil, they're morally bankrupt, and they want everything that they can take and more for themselves. They even began negotiations over a year ago with these people, saying that they think the miners make too much money. These people who are making millions of dollars a year by virtue of the fact that they already have money. By virtue of the fact that they had enough money to buy this mine out of bankruptcy. Not by virtue of their hard work, not by virtue of the fact that they found the coal down in the mines, not by virtue of the fact that they bring it out of the mines, just by virtue of the fact that they had the money to buy the mine after it went into bankruptcy in 2015. They think they deserve more money, and the people, the Alabama workers who actually pull the coal out of the ground, they deserve less. They deserve less. They make too much money. They've got it too good. That's what these people and these international private equity firms think about us. That's what they think about you. That's what they think about me. That's what they think about those folks down in Brookwood. And even some of them at the even higher level, like at BlackRock, are saying that these people who are actually making the decisions are being too craven because, like I said, they're missing out on $1 billion. BlackRock said, and BlackRock even said that it's insane that they gave themselves bonuses and raises after a year only operating the mine at 20, 30% capacity. But they gave themselves raises. They gave themselves bonuses. But BlackRock only owns a 14% stake. They're the largest owner of Warrior Met, but it's still only 14%, so they can't unilaterally make the CEO of Warrior Met concede.
And it is pretty bad when you are looking shameless and craven, even in the eyes of BlackRock. I mean, one of the most despicable equity vampire firms out there in this country.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the union isn't giving in either. In an announcement last week, International President of the United Mine Workers of America, Cecil Roberts, said that they would be increasing the strike benefit from $400 a week, which is already the highest of any union as far as I can tell. I'm not aware of any other union in the country or in Canada internationally that has a strike benefit of higher than $400 a week. They're increasing the strike benefit from $400 a week to $500 a week. A 20% increase, 25% increase. So really exciting news for the people that are on strike, especially with inflation and, kind of as a little bit of, I guess a little bit of something to keep them going after almost 500 days on strike. And it is honestly really an extraordinary announcement after the union has spent well over $20 million in support of the strike. They've spent over $20 million on strike benefits, just straight checks to the people who are on strike, and then on healthcare costs, because they're covering the healthcare of these people who are on strike as well. So the idea that they're increasing their investment in these people about 500 days after the strike began, I think that sends a strong message to Warrior Met that they're not giving in. They have no intention of trying to starve these people out, of trying to make them accept a contract that is not fair, and they have no intention of giving up. So I think that that's just amazing.
It is, and I think that's a good reminder that if you haven't donated to the strike fund or the strike pantry or the school supply drive, if you haven't done it in a while, if you have anything to spare, now would be a good time to do that, just to send your support and solidarity and to show those members down there that not only is the UMWA going to have their back, but workers across the country are going to have their back as well.
Absolutely. It's a really, really exciting stuff for them. Just a reminder, folks, we've got a phone number, 844-899-TVLR, that you can call or text. And we also stream the show live on YouTube and Facebook. People chat us in YouTube and Facebook. Let's go to the chat really quick. Strom, Infinite Content, both of them say morning. And Infinite Content says, I'm trying to get some leftist folks to come raid the stream today. I appreciate that. Strom and Infinite Content's talking about trying to get us on some other shows. That'd be great. William Pina says, good morning, comrades. UPS contract anniversary is this Monday. Get ready for UPS Teamsters to supercharge the labor movement. And William, I'm extremely excited about the UPS contract negotiations. I think that we're going to see some really exciting stuff out of that. I've been talking to whoever's the principal officer at the Teamsters over in Muscle Shoals. I can't remember if he's a business agent or the president, what his official title is, but the head guy basically. He's talking about how International sent 2 organizers full-time to try to increase and engage membership in the lead up to here at Huntsville at UPS in the lead up to the contract negotiations next year. And we're going to try to get them on to talk about that, those 2 organizers and maybe some of the Teamsters, some of the folks at UPS here in Huntsville themselves. Really looking forward to talking to those folks locally and seeing what happens nationally and internationally.
Yeah, and you and I got the chance to listen to the new Teamsters president, Sean O'Brien, who gave quite the rousing speech in Chicago. He seemed ready for action. So, definitely follow that news, regardless of what industry you work in. The UPS contract is going to be a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Just some fun history from Infinite Content. 36 years ago, on July 19th, 1986, the sanitation workers in Philadelphia, which is where he is from, ended their strike. Trash workers striking in the middle of summer was not fun. I can only imagine. Were you present for that strike? Were you alive and cognizant? That's pretty wild. I would imagine that trash workers striking in the middle of summer would not be fun.
That's probably the best time for sanitation workers to go on strike. I would imagine maximum leverage there.
Yeah, no kidding. How did Warrior Matt Cole, from Infinite Content again, how did Warrior Matt Cole see fit to give their CEO a raise under these conditions? Well, they're evil. They're evil and they're craven. That's basically. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. I try to be really, really careful about ascribing moral things to just normal people who believe differently than me. But I think that there are a lot of people. I believe deep down in my heart that there are millions of people who have extremely different views than me on a myriad of issues, who are deep down like good people. Like they're really actually deep down they're good people. They want the best for people. They just have different ideas about how to get there. But some people are evil. Some people are evil, and I think that describes them. William Pena says solidarity with United Mine Workers. The mine owners, and this is a good quote from Big Bill Haywood. The mine owners did not find the gold. They did not mine the gold. They did not mill the gold. But by some weird alchemy, all the gold belonged to them. That's exactly right. Strom says, I have a good story about my grandfather training organized truck driver trainees in Alabama. They were making more money than he was. He didn't belong to a union. Alabama has a much stronger labor union tradition than Georgia does.
And that's true. And to this day, we still have a higher density than Georgia, is my understanding. Even with Atlanta being, a huge metro with obviously a union presence.
A higher density than any other state in the Southeast is my understanding. Alabama has the highest density of the Southeast. It's my understanding. Infinite Content says regarding the 86 trash strike in Philadelphia, says, I was there. Me and my brothers were packing trash and garbage in my grandma's trunk and then washing it out for 30 minutes twice a week. Not fun. Whew. Man, that does not sound fun. That does not sound fun at all. Folks, we're going to take a break really quick, and we will be right back talking about some really, really disappointing local news. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Valley Labor Report.
Hometown Action is a grassroots organization building a multiracial, working-class movement for racial, gender, economic, and environmental justice in Alabama's rural communities. We stand in solidarity with Alabama workers and are proud to support the Valley Labor Report's efforts to inform and build the Southern worker movement. Please visit hometownaction.org and follow our social media channels at Hometown Action to learn more about how you too can get involved to make the South a better place for all workers. Solidarity, y'all.
IBW 558 is like a great football team. You've got to have the aptitude, skills, and knowledge to outperform the competition. If you're a non-union electrician, now is the perfect time to get off the sideline and join our team. We have the absolute best wages and benefit package in North Alabama and Southern Tennessee. It's because our team stands together, bargains together, and our families benefit from it. With immediate openings, you have the opportunity to see why the IBW is the right choice.
Energy Alabama is a locally operated and membership-based nonprofit organization focused on advancing Alabama's clean energy future through education and advocacy. Many people in charge of infrastructure and building decisions simply don't know about how viable clean and renewable energy is. To that end, Energy Alabama has provided instruction to more than thousands of adults and tens of thousands of K-12 students across the state. We're working hard to build careers in clean energy and help everyday Alabamians save money on their utility bills. Learn more about our work and how you can join us at energyalabama.org.
Support for the Valley Labor Report comes from the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers Union. Learn more by visiting www.ifpte.org.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtnj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services provided is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
Support for this program comes from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 136, out of Central Alabama. Learn more at ibew136.org.
Attention union members, membership organizations, podcasters, or anyone with a payment processing need. The future is here, and your organization needs to be prepared by working with Unionly. With Unionly, your union or organization can take payments on a mobile device, eliminating processing fees, giving you a better price than other payment processing methods, while at the same time supporting a union-friendly business with a specialized skill set to meet your needs. Your members will thank you when they pay their dues at their convenience without waiting in line to deposit cash or check. Start preparing for the future today by calling 206-595-8631 or visiting unionly.io.
Come all you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Labor creates all wealth. All wealth should go to labor, and you are listening to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. If you've got anything to add, you can give us a call or send us a text. The phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. We've got somebody on the line right now from a 334 area code, but first I am going to read our ad from the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, because I still haven't taken the time to come into the studio and record that. So, are you looking for a new future, a career that you can set, that can have you set for life, and to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself? If you are, then consider a skilled trades apprenticeship with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, IUPAT. The work of IUPAT is all around us, from the industrial painters who work on bridges to drywall finishers, floor coverers, the glaziers who install glass in our skylines, and so much more. With an IUPAT apprenticeship, you earn while you learn, and you receive benefits while learning the trade, including a pension. We provide world-class education free of charge. That's right, no student debt. Our starting salaries for apprentices that graduate is above the national median salary, with benefits for entire families, and you have the flexibility to take your trade wherever you'd like in the country to work. IUPAT District Council 77 covers our entire region, so give Adam Booth a call at 205-603-3142 for more information. Again, that number is 205-603-3142. Give Adam Booth a call for more information, and come build a better future with us and join IUPAT today. All right, Adam, let's bring on our caller from a 334 area code. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Mel Sutton. I was calling you this morning, Jacob, about the miners' strike at Warrior Met.
Yes,
and,
Mel.
Just gonna
Good to have you.
I was going to give you good morning, first of all, you and Adam. Just going to give you an update and add insult to injury to your report out about the strike.
Mm-hmm.
I feel confident in doing this. Don't think I'm overstepping my bounds. I sit on the West Alabama Labor Council, and Larry Spencer, who is a union rep for the mine workers, he is a representative at the Labor Council.
Mm-hmm.
He's a region vice president with the Labor Council, and we always give a report out about what's going on at different areas and different locals. And during his report out, I don't know if it's been reported, but there is a tentative agreement in hand from Warrior Met to the mine. Yes, there is a tentative agreement, but it comes with a stipulation, and this is what you'll find to be insulting. They have offered up this tentative agreement with the only way they will recognize it, and is that they will throw 37 individuals under the bus. In other words, they got a list of names with 37 names on this list that they do not want back in the mine.
Wow.
But the caveat is they have to ratify this tentative agreement before they'll give them the 37 names.
Wow.
Oh, come on now.
This was reported out at our Labor Council meeting. So this is not rumor.
Right.
This is not speculation. This was reported out and recorded at our Labor Council meeting.
Wow.
Well, Mel, I appreciate you calling and reporting that, but definitely don't like to hear that. That is a pretty disturbing, and I think sets a really dangerous precedent when you start, when companies start doing that.
I mean, you know, as a union, you know, as a union, as a local, you cannot do that to your membership.
No.
Hey, look, if there's enough evidence out there that these 37 individuals has done something, then let the law handle it.
Right, follow the process.
Or if it's previous work history, then we'll get a contract. If you feel like you got the evidence to support firing them, then fire them, and we'll represent them as needed. You know.
Exactly.
I mean, but don't hold this over all the other members' heads to throw 37 of our members under the bus to get a contract. But now that was reported out
and
at our
37 members that you don't even know who it is. So theoretically,
no.
Yeah,
no,
I mean theoretically,
theoretically,
if the UMWA sends this out for ratification, which surely I guess I don't know if you know if they're planning on sending it out or not.
No.
Surely they wouldn't. But if
the position taken at the meeting was no, we're not willing to do that. You know.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
if they did, I really don't.
Yeah, if they did, they'd be asking people. You know, you'd be voting as a member, like, you know, potential, like it could be you that's on that list.
Right, I was thinking that same thing. You may be voting to remove yourself without even knowing it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's wild.
I mean, but that is the depths at which they'll stoop to, you know. But that was reported out at our labor council meeting, and you know, during our report outs, and but yeah, I just want, you know, while you were on that subject, I just thought I would, you know, enlighten you on that.
Yeah, that's a great update.
I appreciate that. That was great.
Are you going to be at the COPE convention Monday, Jacob?
I am, yes, sir. Yeah, the Alabama, for those who don't know, the Alabama AFL-CIO is the statewide federation of unions. It's where it is basically the body of unions in Alabama, and every 2 years we have a COPE convention, a Committee on Political Education, I believe is what it stands for, and we vote. We hear candidate statements and we vote to endorse or not endorse at this convention. It begins this year on Monday and ends on Tuesday, and candidates will be giving their statements. We'll be doing our interviews with the candidates beginning on Monday at 9 a.m.
Well, I look forward to seeing you, Jacob, and I won't keep you. I just thought I'd enlighten you about how far they'll stoop to try to get, you know, try to hoodoo 37 good dues paying members of the United Mine Workers. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the willingness of the union to stand strong and not accept that even as a possibility, because it definitely, you know, I can only imagine that there's a lot of pressure to be able to get back to work, you know, be able to have something. And so it speaks to the members and the officers' dedication to, you know, solidarity and unionism, that they are not willing to throw, you know, 37 random individuals under the bus, that they've got no names or evidence or anything about them.
All right, Jacob. Well, I'll let you go, and I look forward to listening to the rest of the show, Jacob.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks,
Thank
Mel.
you, Mel. That was good.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. Yeah, that's
wow.
That's wild. That's seriously wild. I know at one point they had the company was trying to get them to accept an offer that was less, like had lower wages and benefits and everything than the one that was voted down like 95-1, you know, 95 to 5%. So
yeah, I mean, it really goes to show that we're not making this up when we say they are trying to starve out the union. I mean, that's clearly their end goal here, to the extent that they're even willing to lose money,
right?
Just out of spite, basically. Yeah. Like you said, evil. I think that's a very fair description of what's happening here. Yeah. And Mel's report just confirms it even more.
Yeah. Last week we talked to y'all about the newly reported story. It was new last week. It came out on Friday of last week. The newly reported story about child labor at the Hyundai facility in Montgomery. Just to review really quickly, for those of you who haven't heard about it, children as young as 12 years old were found to be working at a Hyundai parts manufacturing plant in Alabama, a plant that has had multiple OSHA violations totaling fines of $50,000 over the last 10 years, and a violation as recently as this year in 2022 in the last 6 months. And this is not, I was telling somebody this yesterday, and there was they was saying, I'm having even a hard time believing that would be happening in the United States of America. Are you sure about that, Jacob? Are you sure that that's actually, and you're not, off in La La Land and whatever? And no, this is not. The Enterprise Police Department has confirmed it. The Alabama Attorney General's office has not denied it. And there has been no evidence coming from Hyundai or their subcontractor to refute the evidence put forward. The parents of the child one of the children who was working are on record named saying that yes, we needed the money and I'm not proud of it. And they're not working anymore. They're back at school, whatever. Named the parents in the report. They went on record. He
spoke to Reuters.
He spoke to Reuters, the father did, and multiple unnamed workers at the facility confirmed this and additionally said that at various points in time there were dozens of children working there. And the OSHA violations, which are all public record OSHA violations, the OSHA violations included amputation and crush hazards. So that was just a recap of what the state of things was last week. Amazingly, it took several days for any of the right-wing news entertainment folks up here in Huntsville and then the statewide institutions like 1819 News and Yellowhammer to so much as mention it. I mean, literally, the report came out on Friday, and I was watching these people. I was watching them. I don't know about the local hosts in the other parts of the state. You can only take so much poison before it starts to make you sick, right? So, but look, I'm keeping tabs on 3 local radio hosts and 2, online media outlets. Okay, so if that's not enough for you, cut me some slack. But the first mention of this from Dale Jackson, from Michael Yaffe, from Phil Williams, from 1819 News, and from Yellowhammer News, the first mention of it was on Tuesday. What's that? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days after this comes out is the first time that they mentioned it. 4 days. And they're doing this for hours every day. It's not like us, we've got an hour and a half on the radio and then another hour and a half online every week. So, we got to be really selective, and sometimes we're not going to get to everything. There's always stuff that we want to talk about that we're not going to be able to get to.
Right, and we're volunteers. We scour the news in our free time and of course talk with brothers and sisters and such as Mel, and we get reports. But these are professionals. Media
these
entertainers.
are people who are literally getting Coke billionaire money to do this, local capitalist money to do this as their full-time job, and they're on the radio for 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day, and they don't have the time to mention it until Tuesday. And then, even when they do, the only person that I've even seen so much as mention it on the radio is Dale Jackson, and he only mentioned it in passing. 1819 News and Yellowhammer only mentioned it in one article this week, and they only did that as a way to attack immigrants. They only did that as a way to attack immigrants, not as a way to lament the tragedy of children working at a facility with amputation hazards, not as a way to point out the failings of the Attorney General for refusing to act after knowing about children working here for 5 months and still to this day not having done so much as issued a statement on the matter. Not as a way to point out the tyrannical nature of bosses and the necessity of workers to organize and secure a good and safe life for themselves, their families, their children, and their communities. They only did it as a way to contort the story to attack immigrants, if they mentioned it at all. I haven't even heard Yaffe or Phil Williams mention it. And now, I haven't listened to every second of their radio shows. But I have not seen or heard of them so much as mention it. The Alabama Department of Labor confirmed that they had not been even told by the Alabama Attorney General that this was going on, despite the fact that, again, Steve Marshall, the Attorney General of the state of Alabama, has known about this, has known that there were children, there were 12-year-olds, little girls, working at this facility. He has known since February. The Alabama Department of Labor confirmed that they had not heard about this from him. Since learning about this from the Reuters investigation, the Alabama Department of Labor has opened an investigation with the Federal Department of Labor. But what does this likely mean? Civil violations, fines, BS. And I'm only saying that because we're on the radio right now. BS. In other words, just a slap on the wrist for hiring preteens in a facility with amputation hazards. With amputation hazards as a safety violation, not just in an abstract way. It is theoretically possible that you get that you have an amputation at the facility. Not in in many facilities. There's a theoretical abstract possibility, anything can happen. I'm talking about amputation hazards that are safety violations by OSHA that they've been fined for. And OSHA doesn't do anything. The Attorney General would have the authority to bring criminal charges against the people responsible, against the bosses who turned a blind eye at Hyundai and allowed 12-year-old little girls to work in their facility. He could bring criminal charges for child endangerment against them. He could bring all sorts of things. But amazingly, despite the reporting from Reuters and now since others, including the Washington Post, showing his total lack of concern for children and families and little girls, despite him ostensibly being pro-family, he has not felt the need to do anything about this. He's not felt the need to do anything, not even so much as a statement, as he has not, at time of recording on Saturday, 30 July, 2022, the Attorney General of Alabama has not said a word publicly. 8 days after reporting about children working in a facility in Montgomery, Alabama. 8 days, he hasn't so much as issued a statement about it. He hasn't so much as tweeted about it. Instead, he has had the time to share forms that people can report to the Attorney General if they got their feelings hurt on Twitter. If you got your feelings hurt on Twitter.com, if you've been censored by the big tech tyrants, then you can report it to the Attorney General of Alabama and know that he's taking you seriously. But when it comes to protecting children from actual physical danger, he won't even so much as acknowledge it. It's disgusting. And one reason for that is exactly what I talked about earlier. The right-wing news entertainment industry in this state has put no pressure on him to do anything. And he's clearly not individually motivated by any sense of justice or, concern about the citizens and the children of Alabama. And so it will take, and it would take, some amount of pressure coming up from below to make him do anything about this. It would take some sort of pressure on him because he doesn't care. He has no sense of justice himself, Steve Marshall, apparently. Yellowhammer News. Coke-funded flat earth military coup crypto bro boosting 1819 news. Michael Yaffe, Dale Jackson, Phil Williams, none of them have tried to put pressure on him to do anything about this. Most of them have not even so much as mentioned the story in passing, as far as I can tell. And where they have, like I said, it's been in passing and to attack immigrants. They have not done it to illustrate that this is a political problem, that the Alabama Attorney General is choosing to allow children to work in the state of Alabama. I don't even think that I've seen his name mentioned in any of the reports from them about this. So since Steve Marshall's support structure seems totally fine with international corporations using the bodies of Alabama's children for profit, then so is he. From one of our listeners, when our clip dropped last week about this story, Bearded Builder, he said, I just called Steve Marshall's office. This was last week. I talked to a guy and asked him if he knew anything about it. He said, let me connect you to someone who can help you. And it was an answering machine. I left a message, but doubt it will help anything, but we can try. If you want to register your frustration with the fact that the Attorney General of the state of Alabama is allowing international corporations to use the bodies of Alabama's children for profit, then you can call him. You can send him a letter. That is his phone number. The phone number of the Attorney General of the state of Alabama is 334-242-7300. Again, that phone number is 334-242-7300, and the address is Attorney General's Office, State of Alabama, 501 Washington Avenue, Montgomery, Alabama, 36104. Attorney General's Office, State of Alabama, 501 Washington Avenue, Montgomery, Alabama, 36104.
And I did drop both in the Facebook and YouTube chat. You should find the address as well as the phone number. Definitely encourage folks to reach out to the Attorney General. See if anyone in his office has anything better to say.
It is amazing. In a really, really, really disgusting way. And I think, like the people that were having a difficult time to believing this yesterday, they were, they were outraged about it. They were not happy about it. And they were, amazed that the people on their side of the aisle, quote unquote, because these were conservative people that I was talking to, they were amazed that people on their side of the aisle, the Attorney General, who's a Republican, was not doing anything about it, that he hasn't even so much as put out a statement. So, I think, look, right now we're on a conservative talk radio station, WVNN, live. We will be later on a black talk station in Muscle Shoals, WZZA. But I think the folks here in Huntsville who are listening to us on the conservative talk radio station, I think that most of you, everybody listening to the sound of my voice, thinks that 12-year-old children should not be working in parts manufacturing plants that have amputation hazards. I don't think that's a crazy thing to think. And so, I would encourage you, especially if you're a conservative Republican, especially you, to call the Attorney General's office and let him know that you're a conservative Republican and that you think that he should do something about it. Because I don't think that this is a conservative or liberal issue or a libertarian or a socialist issue. I think that most common decent people think that that's a moral outrage.
Right. It's a matter of human decency.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting that, to the extent that it's being covered by some of the right-wing media in the state, it's just yet another opportunity to bash immigrants. And that's why we made a point last week when we talked about this to reiterate that our immigrant brothers and sisters are our brothers and sisters. And we are facing the same exploiters and oppressors. And some of our listeners in the chat have mentioned that as well.
Yep.
It's important that we resist any attempts at xenophobia, especially when it's something like this, when it's clearly meant to distract us from the much bigger issue of literal children working in dangerous manufacturing plants.
Right. It does not seem... It does not seem like it should be that crazy. Mel writes in the Facebook chat that this should be covered under federal child labor laws, and it is. And like I said, now the federal Department of Labor is investigating.
And
so,
I mean, what are we going to have yet another instance where the federal government has to come intervene and make Alabama do something right?
Right.
It's
sad. Yeah, it's definitely sad. So that's. We're going to go ahead and take another break, and we will be right back. We've got some more stuff to talk about on the other side of the break, talking about Republicans wanting to cut taxes yet again for businesses, funny enough. And we'll talk to you about give you an update on the Scottsboro Starbucks workers. So don't change the channel. You are listening to the Valley Labor Report, and we will be right back.
Energy Alabama supports consumers and is a leader in advocating for them. We have been able to successfully fight off utility rate increases in the state, reduce fees for electric vehicles, increase electric vehicle infrastructure spending, and secured a $100 million refund by Alabama Power after the utility overcharged customers for fuel. To learn more about our work advocating for customers and join the fight, go to energyalabama.org.
There's a lot of talk about a shortage of workers, but that's not the case with IBW 558. We have provided our customers over 3,000 workers and performed over 3 million man-hours in a pandemic year. With 8,000 OJT hours, 900 classroom hours, OSHA 30, and a state license, our members receive the equivalent of a master's degree. That's what makes IBW 558 the right choice for your electrical needs. Look us up at Facebook or at IBW558.org.
North Alabama DSA is looking for folks to work for a better North Alabama. They prioritize mutual aid, municipal activism, and union solidarity. Contact them on social media or dsanorthalabama@gmail for more information.
Support for this program is provided by the International Association for Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local Lodge 44 in Decatur, Alabama. Learn more at iamaw44.org.
Hometown Action is a grassroots organization building a multiracial, working-class movement for racial, gender, economic, and environmental justice in Alabama's rural communities. We stand in solidarity with Alabama workers and are proud to support the Valley Labor Report's efforts to inform and build the Southern worker movement. Please visit hometownaction.org and follow our social media channels at Hometown Action to learn more about how you too can get involved to make the South a better place for all workers. Solidarity, y'all.
Support for this program also comes from the Iron Workers, Local 477. So if you are looking for contractors with lower than average EMR and TRIR, they tell me that if you need to know what those mean, then you will. Or if you need to supplement a workforce at any level for any amount of time, short or long term, if you need iron workers that come trained and certified at no extra cost, or if you need workers from superintendent down to general laborer, and you're looking to start work on a project, or you're unhappy with your current contractor situation, you need to call my friend Jeb Miles with the Ironworkers Local 477. They only work with the best in the business, vetted contractors, and can do all kinds of jobs, from roofing to steel and bridge erection, from welding to heavy rigging, from structural repairs to machinery alignment, and much more. They supply manpower on 4 of the 5 largest projects in North Alabama, so you know they're legit. If you need good quality, safe, efficient, diligent, and knowledgeable workers on your job, then you need the Ironworkers Local 477. Call Jeb Miles at 256-383-3334 or via email at local477@bellsouth.net, and make sure you tell them that you heard about them on the Valley Labor Report.
We're the nurses, firefighters, and claims representatives that help keep our government services running. We respond to natural disasters. We care for our nation's veterans, and we investigate discrimination in the workplace. We are federal and D.C. government workers, and we are proud to serve the American people. Working in more than 70 agencies across the government, we know we can fulfill our mission because our union has our back. Learn more at afge.org. Paid for by the American Federation of Government Employees, AFL-CIO.
Support for this program also comes from the Mid-South Council of Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. Learn more at rwdsu.info.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Alabama's only union talk radio show. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. If you've got anything to add, you can give us a call or shoot us a text. The phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. We got a text over the break. Do you think, from a 267 area code, do you think that Biden should tell his NLRB to step in and make Warrior Met negotiate in good faith? Yes, he should do everything in his power to... He should be doing right now everything in his power to bring Warrior Met to its knees. I don't know what the machinations would be through the NLRB. I do know that historically the Secretary of the Department of Labor has been involved in negotiating contracts. And in fact, just recently, Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh last year helped to negotiate a contract between Kellogg's and the BCTGM union when they were on strike. The bakers, bakery, confectionery, Tobacco and Grain Millers Union. They were on strike at Kellogg's, and Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh helped to negotiate a contract. And so I do not understand why the Biden administration is not even putting public pressure on Warrior Met. It seems to me like such just political gold. Like, right. Beyond, again, it seems like so many times there are ways to justify actions or to incentivize actions that are not the most savory. I think that we should be supporting these coal miners down in Alabama because that is what justice would dictate. That is what justice would say, is that these people deserve more for what they are doing. That coal miners, if anybody, deserves to make a lot of money, it would be coal miners. And at least they should make as much money as they were making before the bankruptcy of Jim Walters Energy. At least they should be making that much. And that's what they're asking for. And they at least
deserve the respect of good faith negotiation.
But let's say that we're not motivated by good things for people. Let's say that we don't actually care about,
So we might be a politician.
So we
putting ourselves in the headspace of a politician, you're saying.
Yeah, put yourself in the headspace of a politician like Joe Biden, who doesn't actually care about working people, I think is safe to assume. As a political matter, coming to a rally in Alabama on behalf of coal miners against BlackRock capitalists, against these people that for one reason or another everybody hates, nobody likes BlackRock anymore, even, the Republican base. And you can, lambast them, even just as a rhetorical thing. Just say like, I can't believe these people haven't got a good contract or whatever. Even just like not even actually doing anything, but just saying the things. It seems like such a political winner. But then if you actually did something, about the thing, use the Department of Labor, use some mechanism to force them to give these people a good contract, it just seems like such a political no-brainer. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. I mean, and absolutely there are things that could be happening, that should be happening. Send Marty Walsh down to Tuscaloosa County. Have him attend a rally. How about OSHA open up some new investigations?
Right.
How about the Mine Safety Commission take a closer look?
That's what Tim James said he would do when he was running for governor. When he was running for governor.
If that moron could come up with such an idea.
Right.
Don't tell me that there's not options on the table.
It's insane.
As Infinite Content just put in the chat, if Marty Walsh showed up for the Warrior Met coal miners, it would put every corporation on notice.
Right.
And I think that's
and I don't
important.
understand. He did that for the Kellogg strike, and the Kellogg strike was only like 2 or 3 months. I don't understand why there is not national political pressure coming from the Democrats.
Right, and steel is, in some senses, a national security type of industry.
It doesn't make sense.
The federal government has time and time again intervened in steel industry.
Right.
This is metallurgical coal. Again, I mean, it does seem like a no-brainer. I'm glad someone texted that in because that's a good discussion. And just as we're calling on folks to reach out to Steve Marshall, our disgraceful Attorney General in the state of Alabama, we need to be reaching out to the Labor Secretary and to the White House.
Yeah.
And if you're a Democrat and you voted for him, bring that up.
Right.
Just like if you're a Republican and you voted for Steve Marshall and you're as outraged as we are about child labor in the state of Alabama in 2022, you should bring that up to him.
Yeah. Go into the YouTube chat. Hey, folks, we've got 15 people watching and only 10 people have liked the thing. So what's up with that? Like the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Infinite Content says, hey, can you make this point really quick? Police are the only unions that take action against others that are engaging in labor actions. And yes, that is why
absolutely
police unions do not belong in the labor movement. Strom says Michael Goldfield has written some pretty amazing stuff on the associative power extended by coal miners to steel and textile industry workers and teachers in Alabama in the Great Depression and World War II. Interestingly enough, David Story, co-founder of the Valley Labor Report, his grandmother was president of a textile union that went on strike in North Alabama during the big textile strike. The Great Depression.
The big wave in 34, right?
Yep. Let's see, what else have we got? Infinite Content says, I thought this story's been in the news for about a week and a half. It has, but not on right-wing news entertainment in Alabama. Strom also says, check out America's Other Automakers by Timothy J. Minchin. Deathbird in the YouTube chat says, the Southern bourgeoisie has always cared about Southern workers exactly the same amount, generation after generation, which is to say they don't. And that is true. Strom says we must develop this general popular understanding of this general truth. Deathbird then says, maybe if we find clapbacks to problematic tweets from these 12-year-olds, we can get Steve Marshall's attention. And unfortunately, that may be the only way that he would care about that. He also says, Deathbird, Jacob out here with radical takes like tweens should not be working in parts manufacturing.
Slow down now.
Slow down.
You might be alienating folks with those hot takes you got. Like, kids should keep all their fingers and toes.
Kids should be in school and not lose toes working for international corporations. Oh, man.
And there was some good back and forth there with Strom and Rai and some others talking about this whole concept of wokeness and just the word itself, woke, that is so overplayed. Some good discussion there in the chat about, what that really means and how do we pivot away to the right-wing narratives on this and to some degree the liberal narratives on this to look more at solidarity.
Yeah. Joe Marshall says in the Facebook chat, I will call Steve Marshall's office on Monday. No relation to me, thank goodness.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want to associate Joe with that creep.
Yeah. So let's go to this. Speaking of Alabama politicians not caring about Alabamians, State Senator David Sessions.
Oh.
I had never. Had you ever had any run-ins with this guy before?
I've never had any run-ins with him. No.
Okay. I had not heard about him until this story that I saw on Koch-funded flat Earth military coup crypto bro boosting 1819 news. I had never heard of this guy, State Senator David Sessions, before. But with inflation at about 9% right now, many working families are definitely being hit at the grocery store. And this is not made any easier by the fact that Alabama still has a tax on groceries, one of only 13 states to do so, adding another 6 to 9% on top of inflation. Naturally, then, Alabama politicians are talking about another business tax cut in the next session. So, you heard that right. Instead of trying to galvanize support and build a coalition for repealing what is probably one of the single most consequential taxes on working people in the state of Alabama, a tax on groceries, politicians like State Senator David Sessions, a Republican from Grand Bay, Alabama, is talking about still more tax cuts for bosses. It's absolutely amazing. He says in an interview on the Jeff Poore Show down in Mobile, quote, "I'm certain there'll be more. Like I said, we did several last year. We did a small one on the business personal property tax. As a small business person, I've never really liked that one much. I would like to see it done away with totally. It's personal." And see, this is funny. When I read it's personal, I just saw that quote. I was like, oh, this guy, like, he wants to cut taxes for himself. Like, that's pretty convenient. But then he goes on to say later in the interview that he's actually totally exempt from this tax because he owns a farm instead of another small business. So this is just like class solidarity for the bosses.
Right.
Well,
he wants to be able to brag at the country club.
Yeah.
To all of his friends that he cut their tax bill, and now they can enjoy some of the same wonderful tax breaks that he enjoys.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go out here on a limb and say I'm not a small business person. I'm a working class person. And I'm not a big fan of the grocery tax.
Right.
It's a little bit personal. And every time I go to Walmart and Publix, it's personal.
And the thing is Infinite Content says in the chat, why not just eliminate the grocery tax altogether, which is exactly what you should do. And the question arises always, what are we going to replace the funding with? Because the grocery tax funds education and stuff like this.
Right, and that's a major issue, and that is an obstacle to dealing with it, because obviously the education community is going to be skeptical of any proposals to cut the grocery tax unless there is like rock solid plans to replace the funding, right? Because the last thing we need to do in the state of Alabama is cut education funding. Jesus.
And the thing is that you could literally just tax big businesses, tax wealthy people, add another bracket on the income tax for higher earners, people who make over, I don't know, $400,000, tax them at another 1% on income over $400,000 or something. You know, this is like, you could literally
There's so many ways.
So many ways that you could shift the burden from working people to people who have it much easier. And they don't do this because there would be attack ads about, oh, they raise taxes or whatever. And the thing is, every session that they choose not to eliminate the grocery tax, it is a choice. It is an active choice to continue taxing working people, poor people like me and you, people who work for a living. It is an active choice to continue taxing us and relieving the tax burden that would otherwise be there on the wealthy, on bosses, every year, they choose to tax working people like me and you instead of bosses, instead of wealthy people. That's a choice that they make every year, because every year they have the option to maintain the same amount of tax revenue coming in and just shift the burden to the wealthy. But they don't. They always choose, it is a choice, to maintain the tax burden of the grocery tax, which sales taxes are the most regressive type of tax. Because by their very nature, they affect people who have less income more than people who have more income. If you make $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, all of that money is going to go towards your expenses, towards rent, utilities, and groceries, right? So something like 20% of your income is going to go towards groceries. Whereas a person who makes $100,000 a year, $200,000, $300,000, $1 million a year, only like 1% of their income is going to go towards groceries. So that means that you're taxing on an income basis more on poor people, on working people, than you are on higher income people, on bosses, things like this.
Right. And one thing to add here is, and we've talked about it on the show several times, Alabama Rise has already done the homework for them. Like, they don't have to come up with a new plan. Alabama Rise, who does great work around policy, particularly around poor folks in Alabama, they have put out the research, they put out a study, they've put out a plan that could actually replace this revenue while providing a tax cut for the majority of Alabamians. It's pretty simple. You just remove the federal income tax deduction that's in Alabama's tax code, which disproportionately benefits the wealthy. You remove that, and you would be able to remove the grocery sales tax and have actual more revenue coming in than you would otherwise.
Yeah.
So the state of Alabama could raise more funds. Majority of Alabamians would actually see a tax cut, and the only folks who would see any modest increase in their taxes would be the very wealthiest Alabamians, which again, they wouldn't be paying the grocery tax anymore either, so it's still offset. Right. It still would be incredibly modest. But by doing this, we would relieve the tax burden on working class people in the state. We would raise more revenue in order to actually improve education funding or wherever else it may need to go. It's so common sense. And like you said, every legislative session, it is a choice.
Right.
They choose what to prioritize, and they choose what bills are going to get a vote. They choose what bills are going to get passed. And every year, inevitably, there are more tax cuts for business and for the wealthy, with complete inaction when it comes to working class people and the tax burden we bear, and needless to say, any sort of investment in the social safety net. I mean, it's 2022. We haven't even expanded Medicaid in this state.
Right. Yeah, it's really disgusting. As we're wrapping up here on the radio, I did want to mention to you, give you an update on the Scottsboro Starbucks workers who are organizing a union down there, just 40 minutes east of here, where we are broadcasting from. Ballots went out early last week on Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was, in the election. So we'll be seeing the election results here in about a month. And 2 days before ballots went out, 2 of the lead union organizers who were clear yes votes were fired. And somehow, the Starbucks Workers United lawyers seem very confident that this means they will not be able to vote. I talked to somebody the other day who said, I thought that if you had worked there for 6 months before the election, you could vote. And I asked that to the people in the union, to people who knew folks in the union, and they said, no, for some reason, I don't know what it is about, maybe it's something particular about part-time work that maybe makes it. Anyway, they feel confident that these 2 yes votes will not be able to participate in their election, which is convenient for Starbucks. And so there is going to be today, in an hour, a community show of support for these Starbucks workers. Adam and I will be going down there and showing our support for them. At least half a dozen union members from the North Alabama Labor Council will be joining. I'm really excited about that. Folks from the Birmingham Democratic Socialists of America, the Birmingham Starbucks Workers United are going to be there as well. And you are welcome to come, especially if you're a member of a union. You should wear your union shirt or your Starbucks Workers United shirt if you have one, and meet at the Scottsboro Starbucks, Scottsboro, Alabama. It's on John T. Reed Parkway at noon. At noon on Saturday, 30 July. Here in about an hour, the community is going to be going and showing support. Not going to be buying anything from Starbucks or anything. Not going to be like chanting or, having signs or anything. It's just going to be, we're going to be present in the building, in the Starbucks, just there to physically show our support for these workers who were fired and for the workers who are left facing retaliation from management as they try to form their union. So hope to see a lot of y'all out there here in about an hour. We're going to be wrapping up overtime a little bit early, probably wrap at about noon, and we'll be about 30 minutes late or so. That's what we've got. That's what I've got on my mind to do. So. Additionally, a couple other plugs as we are wrapping up here on the radio. There is a free automotive repair and service project that is hosted by the North Alabama School for Organizers on August 14th from 9 to 3 at Knights Village in Huntsville. You can leave us a voicemail at 844-899-TVLR or text us, and we might read it or listen to it on the next program. You can buy a hat, pre-order our new shirt, or give us money on our website, tvlr.fm. Find us online where we will be reacting to Jordan Peterson's message for CEOs. That's going to be fun.
Can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
I came in here listening to it, and Adam was like, "What in the world are you listening to?" So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun listening to that, and there's going to be a couple things that we didn't get to during the main show. I think we're going to go over that local news story, and obviously taking your calls and chatting with the chat. So find us online, YouTube, Facebook, at The Valley Labor Report. Until next week, all power to the workers.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says the death toll from catastrophic flooding in the eastern part of the state has risen to 25 and is expected to go higher. More than 300 people rescued, one-third of them by aircraft. ABC's Mola Langi has more from the hard-hit town of Hyndman.
In the small town of Hyndman, Gene Everidge and Gladys Epperson are cleaning out what's left of the flower shop that's been in business here for 100 years. What's the hardest part?
Hoping there's a future for this.
No, you're fine. All right.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. All right, folks, so we got rid of the people on the radio. Howdy, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staying with us. We've got a great overtime lined up for you. You can still call in, like I said, at 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. We are going to take a short break, and we will be right back.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell. How the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Back, you are still listening to the Valley Labor Report, Alabama's only union talk radio program, paid for by workers organizations, progressive nonprofits. No money from the bosses. We got a message from Joe Marshall in the Facebook chat, the FMCS, about the idea to have Biden's NLRB mediate a contract between Warrior Med and the UMWA. The FMCS can send a mediator, but the parties have to agree. I've contacted the loser Mo Brooks staff by phone and mail to suggest this, and crickets. The FMCS, I had to look this up, is the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. Founded in 1947, is an independent agency of the United States government and the nation's largest public agency for dispute resolution and conflict management. Interesting.
Yeah, sometimes if you have a case that goes to arbitration, they are often the agency that sends the arbitrator.
Interesting. Okay.
I believe there is at least one other service, because I do remember from my last contract that the deal was management and labor would flip a coin to decide which agency you got. So I know there's at least one other one, but appreciate Joe's report there.
Yeah.
No surprise the loser Mo Brooks has
Yeah.
been quiet in his response.
Anthony in the YouTube chat says, showing support for them, presumably for the mine workers, from IATSE Local 18 in Milwaukee. That's exciting.
Hell yeah. And just for the record, I know we sometimes give Yankees a hard time on this show because we're, Southern boys, born and bred, but that excludes all of our union siblings. So all fellow unionists, even if you're Yankees, we love you. Now, if you're a Yankee and you hate unions, well then you can definitely
But
go
if
to
you
hell.
but if you like unions, then you're one of the good ones.
That's right. Absolutely. Even if you talk a lot faster than us, you're probably not going to offer sweet tea and biscuits when we come by your house. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, but just keep paying those dues, keep sending that solidarity.
There you go. So let's do this. We didn't have. I was planning to do it in the main show, but that's fine. It's not super important, or it's not a. Well, I mean, it's kind of important, but it's a more like just kind of frustrating thing. So anyway, let's do the local news thing. Local news is an incredibly important institution, and the destruction of local news is really, really detrimental to our ability to know what is going on in our community.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yes. I mean, I'd be curious, those of you who are listening, tell us in the chat kind of what the state of local news is in your area, because I know it seems like most Americans, probably overwhelming majority of Americans, there actually is no resource to go to if you want to find out what's happening at your local school board, your local city council, county commission, planning commission, institutions that do have very significant impacts on your life as a citizen and as a worker. There is such a lack of coverage.
Right. From a 538 article last year, a growing body of research has found that government is worse off when local news suffers. In fact, inadequate local news has been linked to more corruption, less competitive elections, weaker municipal finances, and a prevalence of party-line politicians who won't bring back benefits to their districts. It does get a bad rap, though, sometimes, local news, for reporting on silly things and basically running with any story that they can get their hands on. And unfortunately, we saw an example of that last week with WBRC in Birmingham. Adam, let's take a listen. Let's take a listen to that clip.
On the 4, caught on camera, a woman in Centerville is upset after seeing disgusting images on her home surveillance video when a FedEx delivery driver arrived at her home.
Yeah, she says the video appears to show the driver throwing her package on the ground, then urinating nearby. Brian Henry has more on this from Bibb County.
It happened Wednesday afternoon around 1:30 when a FedEx driver stopped here to deliver a package for the homeowner. Then afterwards, a very shocking situation. The camera on the house captured a disturbing image. The driver urinated in the customer's driveway.
Walked over here to my gate and just dumped my package. It damaged the box. Luckily, it was just dog food. Yes, luckily it was just dog food, but it damaged the box. Proceeded to walk over here. Guy in the back of the truck shut the door and just peed in my driveway. I'd say right here, that it did look like the truck was right here, and he did pee at the back of it. So I'm assuming this is the general area. I mean, I was really just baffled. Like, I didn't know what to think at first. I mean, of course, I was like ill. I was angry. I tried to get in touch with FedEx. I tried to call them. I tried to figure out if I could email them. I've tried to send them a chat on Facebook, to no avail.
So far, no response from FedEx. In Centerville, Brian Henry, WBRC Fox 6 News, on your side.
Whew.
Wow.
You know, first off, like, let's talk about the fake outrage that a disturbing image. Really? Was it really actually disturbing seeing the back of a guy as he takes a piss? Like, is that actually, are you really disturbed by that? And the lady also said that he, quote, threw the package over the fence. For folks that are just listening, like on the podcast, and you can't see this, he pretty easily set it on the other side of the gate, you know. Like, he didn't make sure there was a pillow on the bottom of it, but he did not throw it. He set it on the other side of the gate. I cannot, for the life of me, understand the mindset that you've got to be of this woman who calls the news on a guy who just had to take a piss. But even more than that, like, I can't understand the mindset of a journalist to take this story to air.
I guess there weren't enough car crashes and arrests that day.
That's just crazy. I mean, what are journalists supposed to be? They're not supposed to be tattletales, people who punch down, report on every uncouth thing that some worker does. They're supposed to speak truth to power. They're supposed to investigate politicians, bosses, even corrupt union officials. You know, that there should be reporting on that. We should know what our union officials are doing, and that's legitimate play. But putting this guy on blast because he took a piss? It's disgraceful. It is disgraceful. Like, if she's really that upset about it, she can take a hose. She can wait for it to rain. I mean, animals are going to piss in your yard and on your driveway all the time. It does not matter. It does not matter. And sure, like, we can say it was uncouth of him to do. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, there are plenty of real stories that you could have made out of this.
Right.
How long are FedEx drivers expected to drive without a break? Do they have air conditioners? How much money do they make? Right. If they don't have air conditioners, they might be having to drink water all the time to keep cool.
Yeah, I mean, this happened during a heat wave.
Right.
It's July in Alabama. It's hot. It's humid. We don't know how often this worker gets to make a stop to use the restroom. We don't know what the monitoring is.
Right.
Like, you know, how strictly does his management monitor when he does stop to use the restroom?
How much does his management make? How much do FedEx supervisors make? Do they get breaks? Do the workers get breaks? Do their routes have designated places to use the restroom? How do the working conditions compare to UPS, a union employer? Have there ever been any government response to long working hours without breaks at FedEx? I don't have answers to all of these questions, but those are actual legitimate questions, investigations that you can make from this story.
Were you so journalistically inclined?
But no, Brian Henry at WBRC took the easy way out, running a customer complaint on a low-wage worker who had to take a piss when he should have just told her to hose it off if she really cared that much. really, really, really pretty gross. I reached out to Brian Henry to ask if FedEx had gotten back with him, and he said that there was no response or indication that the FedEx employee has been disciplined, which, good. I also asked him if he was proud to have done this story and if he thinks it was a good use of his time and WBRC's resources, and this is what he said to that, quote, "I'm not sure I would say it's a story I'm proud to have done. I've done so many stories over a 36-year career in 5 markets. They all sort of blend together for me at this point." Great.
Come on, Brian. Do better. Do better.
Love it.
I try to be as sympathetic as possible to local news reporters because I know that their working conditions are less than ideal. I worked pretty closely with a number of reporters when I was a staffer as a labor organizer. I frequently reached out to them, sent them press releases, conducted interviews with them, did plenty of off-the-record conversations. So I know that, it's not unusual for them to be given these urgent deadlines. I knew when the reporters were calling me at like 2:30 in the afternoon, they were desperate to have something ready by 5 or 6.
Right.
And, honestly, they weren't even that concerned about what it was I was going to say, as long as I was willing to go on camera and give them some content.
Right.
Which obviously that worked well for me in some cases. I was able to advance workers' stories and issues that were important to us by taking advantage of that. But I also know that a lot of these local news folks, they're not, how can I put this? They're not all the most journalistically inclined folks, I guess would be the nice way to put that. And the local news stations are not necessarily looking for hard-hitting investigative journalism. I ran into some reporters that I worked with here in the Huntsville area who actually wanted to do hard-hitting investigative journalism, who were frequently stymied by their own management at the station, or when they were facing obstacles from local government, such as Mayor Tear Gas Tommy Battle, to name one, Elisa Farrell, school board president of the Huntsville City Schools Board of Education, to name another. When they ran into obstacles from these sorts of people, the station would throw them under the bus. So, even those like young reporters who were on fire, wanted to do real groundbreaking stuff, wanted to speak truth to power, as you said earlier, they ran into obstacles. You get thrown under the bus by management, or in some cases even disciplined by management. Suddenly your urge to do such investigation goes away. And without the protection of a union, because, these folks need unions too. And unfortunately, certainly in our area, the reporters and other employees at these news stations are not unionized. And so, again, they're taken advantage of. And the business model of local news appears to be basically do whatever the local law enforcement community and real estate developer community want you to do.
Right.
That seems to guide the content, and that's why it's nothing but arrest reports and car crashes and property development, always framed in the most positive light towards the developers. And any story regarding crime or criminal justice, they might as well be stenographers for the police. I will never forget the June 2020 police riot here in Huntsville, as I witnessed the reporter on the ground and their camera footage being contradicted live on air by an anchor back at the studio, who was literally telling us a different reality from what his own colleague was broadcasting. Don't believe your lying eyes on the screen. Listen to what I have to say, Mr. News Anchor. That that stood out to me, and I don't think I'll ever forget that one, just because it was so dystopian to be like over the top, really. But I guess I'll get off my soapbox there. But again, there are some good people doing good work, or at least attempting to do good work in the existing media apparatus. But local news has shrunk. Local news has shrunk down to mostly a handful of television stations, which do news-ish entertainment.
Yep.
And we are all that much worse for it, because we need people reporting on what's happening in local government. We need people reporting on local issues relevant to working class people and to our communities and neighborhoods. Not garbage like this. And we certainly don't need the punching down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you're not able to do any big, hard-hitting story.
Right.
And it's another to actively use your platform to punch down at some, random worker.
Right.
Who's not even actually, it would be one thing maybe if this random worker was like, I don't know, berating black people, calling them the N-word. That would be one thing theoretically, but this wasn't even that. This was a guy who was working long hours for low wages and had to take a piss. And did so presumably in the best place that he could, the most discreet place that he could. I don't know. It's just, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. And when local reporters do good things, we celebrate them.
Emily Mosner at WHNT and Megan Plotka at WAFF and Madison Neal at WHNT. They've all done some really good labor stuff recently.
Right. I just sent a message last week after I saw Madison Neal's report on WHNT regarding the Starbucks, regarding the KFC worker walkout. And said thank you for centering worker voices in a worker story.
Yes. That was great.
And I think that's important that we reinforce when we see good coverage happening. Let's reach out and express support for that and engage with it. Since of course that's what management's caring about. How many clicks are they getting? How many shares are they getting? Let's do our best to support those who are supporting us. But we will definitely call out the bullshit when we see it.
The last thing that I wanted to do here in overtime, and then we'll wrap, is this. I thought it would be pretty funny for us as union workers, union members, people who have been union officers, to react to Jordan Peterson's message to CEOs. Now, Adam, you're pretty offline, generally speaking, but you had an idea of who Jordan Peterson was, because you said something about, because I was listening to him getting the clips as I came in to the studio this morning. So you do know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've ever listened to a full video of his, or certainly I've never read his books. I know of him. The general vibe I get from him is that he's kind of a mixture of like standard self-help geared towards young white men primarily, with a mixture of just totally batshit reactionary politics, and especially around masculinity and feminism. That's my read on him. So yeah, I'm coming in mostly blind.
I went through a phase back in the day where I kind of went through like a pro Medicare for all, anti SJW phase, I think, as any young white guy does.
Yeah, I mean, everybody comes to their politics for different reasons.
And so I was actually for a while a pretty big fan of Jordan Peterson, and it was, I did always think that, occasionally he would kind of go off on the rails, but he seemed like, since coming back from his benzos addiction, he seems different. He seems like less coherent, less stable, less earnest, and just way more mad, like just And not even like, I don't even know how to describe it. Not even mad in like a righteous way, but like mad in a old man yelling at clouds,
like a bitter,
just a bitter, biting anger at the world. It's really strange.
So let me ask you, like, and this is kind of just my perception from the outside, looking in, is that he just tried to position himself as like kind of like a pop intellectual type.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like,
he's always...
He could be the Chomsky or Zizek or somebody for the right-wing anti-feminist crowd.
For sure.
So that's kind of what he's aiming for, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so let's play this first clip and see what you think about it. It's like near the beginning of his message to CEOs.
Okay.
We are in the midst of a culture war. Although it started in the universities, particularly in France, through the open portal of the damnable Yale, and then into the rest of the institutes of higher education, it is not only the faculty and administrators of our colleges and universities who are at fault. Those charged with the privilege and responsibility of running the corporate world are lining up to kowtow at the DIE altar, diversity, inclusivity, and equity, at a rate that exceeds, and with a cowardice comparable to that characterizing the most contemptible of pencil-necked academics.
So that was the intro to the thing.
Okay, so culture war allegedly started in French universities, imported to Yale.
Yeah.
It's now infecting the CEOs of America.
Yes. Yeah. I think we can start with a point of agreement, though. Yale is contemptible.
Sure. Yeah.
We can agree on that.
Not a fan. Not a big fan. CEOs being cowards. Okay. Yeah. I can roll with that.
All right. Yeah. Let's go to the next clip.
I had hoped that CEOs in particular, evil capitalists all, would reject this nonsense, this idiot postmodernism with its denial of any objective world, divine or material, this appalling and murderous Marxist wolfery in sheep's clothing. But it turns out that the left's ability to weaponize guilt and the contempt that far too many in the business world have for ideas have proved an unstoppable combination.
So, all right, I'm getting the sense that we throw buzzwords together.
Yeah.
We throw a lot of academic sounding language together to make ourselves sound like we know what we're talking about,
because Marxism very much does not posit that there is no real world, material or ephemeral.
Right. It's actually materialist. That's sort of the foundation.
The foundation is that there is a real world, and we need to we need to agree with it or not. Marxism is a materialist, modernist, not postmodern, view of history, historical materialism.
Analytical framework, philosophy, however you want to couch that. Postmodernism, Marxism, not the same thing.
Actually very contradictory. But so he's also saying that CEOs are like so guilty that they're kowtowing to the postmodern Marxists.
Yeah, I'm confused as to what guilt they may have. Now, should they feel guilty for exploiting workers and for destroying our planet and putting our species on a path to extinction? Yes, they very much should feel guilty about that, but I haven't seen much evidence of that, and certainly don't see them pandering to a philosophy that literally does not exist.
Yeah. So here's in the next bit, he's going to start talking about some of the ways that they are kowtowing. So let's play that.
Yeah, prove your case, bud.
And even worse than the dreadful HR/DIE combination, perhaps, if that is even possible, is the new corporate and government craze for environment, social, and governance dicta. so-called ESGs, as every idiot fad needs an oh-so-in-the-know acronym. As one set of corporate consulting half-wits and moral posturers put it, quote, investors are increasingly applying these non-financial factors as part of their analysis process to identify material risks and growth opportunities. ESG metrics are not commonly part of mandatory financial reporting, though companies are increasingly making disclosures in their annual report or in a standalone sustainability report. Non-financial factors applied to identify material risks, standalone sustainability reports. All this smacks of central planning, not to mention a low, shallow, self-justifying moralizing, which can and does in no wise stand in for genuine ethical action.
Wait a second. So you're telling me what is like definitionally neoliberal tactics, right, of using the marketplace is the same as central planning?
Mm-hmm.
Because some companies are reporting on their environmental impact, which, by the way, companies should have to report on their environmental impact.
Right.
That would be my opinion. I think that's a very reasonable thing to ask. You know, I'm not really that concerned about it as an investor because I don't have enough money to be considered an investor. You know, but yeah, it's not a bad idea that there be some accounting publicly of what companies are doing to the planet.
Yeah, and you know, I do. There is. The bit about central planning was very strange, but there's a certain amount of truth there that he's getting at, that is the ESG stuff is obviously it's no substitute for, like, you know, real ethical behavior by a company.
Yeah.
But it's bizarre to me that he sees this as so important, that he's seeing ESG, environmental and social and government's impacts reporting, as just the reporting of it, not even like necessarily the changing of it, just saying like, oh, this is what we're doing. And of course, since it's not mandatory, they're able to skew these numbers in ways and pick what numbers they want to say in the ways that they want. It's bizarre to me that he is saying, he is acting like this is a huge issue, and it's bad, that it's bad and it's a big issue, because it's just greenwashing, basically.
Right, yeah. I mean, if he were to actually talk to anyone who is an actual leftist, not just the ones like in his imagination, but, you know, legitimately people on the left, none of them would I don't think would say, oh yeah, ESG is a game changer.
Right.
This little reporting that they're having to do, that's accomplishing our goals.
Right.
Come on now. I mean, and what I'm picking up here is whether it's the ESG stuff, we're talking about DEI and how that's fused with HR departments, is kind of picking aspects of the current neoliberalism,
mm-hmm.
aspects that folks on both the right and the left would have issues with. So he's picking those out. So there, you know, like you said, there's elements of truth, like any good propagandist. Picking those elements out of neoliberalism that folks on all sides would find objectionable, or on most sides would find objectionable, but then ascribing it to not neoliberalism, but to some conglomeration of leftism with
mm-hmm.
postmodernism, with, you know, I mean, it's a very bizarre way of looking at reality. As someone, you know, I would consider myself to be on the left, you know, in the Marxist tradition, the materialist tradition. So for me, this just, it all sounds Sounds like you just made up some shit based on a few random Wikipedia pages, honestly. Like, you're just pulling out some buzzwords. Like, you've heard just enough to be dangerous in your ignorance.
Right.
That's the vibe I'm getting.
It is really weird, and that's what he's, you know, and he's going to talk some more about HR in a bit. But we have got real criticisms of the way that these management, this is coming from the top, this management branded diversity training, this Robin DiAngelo white fragility stuff.
Right.
We've got the consultant class. We have real critiques of that, and you can go back and from a working class perspective, from a perspective that these are ways that the CEO, the owning class, the bosses are trying to whitewash, to greenwash, to launder their public image, to make themselves seem in the public eye less evil, as a way to make money, right. As a way to better facilitate their capitalist endeavors, not as a way to actually make the world better, not as a way to actually make their workplaces more inclusive, safer for people, make sure that they have better working conditions. It is simply as a way to, for the least investment possible, to make people shut up and to buy their products and to not organize for better. That's what it's all about. And we see it in union busting tactics now as well. We're seeing people coming we saw it at REI. They opened their anti-union podcast with an indigenous land recognition and reciting their pronouns.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, which, you know, whatever, if you want to do those things, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But they're trying to launder their reputation and their neoliberal, capitalist, boss, pro-boss, anti-worker political agenda through woke language. And to make themselves seem more ethical and like they care and all this, and it's just nonsense. It's all nonsense.
Yeah, and it goes back to actually the discussion in the YouTube chat among Strom and Rai and maybe some others about this very topic and the ways in which this sort of rhetoric is used by capital to fight solidarity. You know, and I think, like you said, there's absolutely critique of the, you know, diversity hustle, more or less, if you want to. I mean, I think would be a good name for it. As you said, it's a way to launder reputations. It's a grift for some people. It's a way to actually counter real solidarity, because HR departments are not going to bring us racial justice, right? I mean, it's not going to bring us the sort of solidarity that we need between race and gender and religion and, you know, nationality. We need real solidarity across those lines, that some of which are real and some of which are, you know, artificial. But even if they're artificial, still have real effects. But that is, and so I think it's just interesting to me that there are people out there who are getting their ideas about all this from a guy like Jordan Peterson, because they're coming out of it so misinformed about the state of politics in this country and the state of ideologies in this country.
The state of workplaces.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, well, you know, speaking about the HR and the state of workplaces, let's play that clip about HR running the company, because that is really kind of the shtick that a lot of people on the right are running with right now. That CEOs, poor CEOs, executives, are being held hostage by these super powerful people in HR. So let's see that.
CEOs, how can you not see? Oh yes, there's that contempt for ideas again. There's that guilty pandering to the utopian leftist mob. The DIE mandates and ESG disclosures and the massive administrative bureaucracy that thrives on such pseudo work is precisely equivalent to the worst sort of fifth column. You CEOs are elevating the least competent people in your corporations, that's you, human resources personnel, to the highest positions of decision making and company planning, turning over your hiring decisions to those deluded enough to think that diversity is a substitute for ability, and to believe that equity merely means equality of opportunity. What does it mean? How about you take the time to find out?
So see, you can see there that he really thinks that HR departments are like running the country.
That's just which is absolute joke and contradicting real life. I'm sorry.
I just talked last week about how I met this person who was in HR who was despondent at the role that she was playing in the company because she had come up through college with a sort of idea, maybe along the lines of what he was thinking, that of what he's trying to put out there, that as an HR department worker, as an HR manager, you are going to be able to help the workers. You are going to be able to help them advocate for themselves. You are going to be able to be a resource for humans at the companies that you work at. But what she found as an HR worker is that she became a cudgel for the boss. The only thing that she's been able to do is inform people that they will not get their raises, inform people that their healthcare benefits are going to be cut, inform people that they are going to have to return to the office before they wanted to, that just delivering bad news for the boss and covering for him or her. And so, the idea that executives are being held hostage by HR is just silly. They are hiring these people, even people with maybe potentially good politics, as a shield for themselves.
Right. Everyone who's ever worked in a workplace big enough to have an HR department knows that the HR department is there to give you a runaround.
Mm-hmm.
That's their primary task, is give you a runaround, deliver bad news. That's the majority of your role.
Right.
Now, he said something about...
just really quick, let's look at the spokesperson for Starbucks, who also happens to be the diversity, equity, and inclusion person at Starbucks, Reggie something or another. He is deputized to attack workers in the media. That's like his whole job now. That's his whole job now, this guy, to such an extent that he called us up after after we covered the Memphis 7, talking about how, they actually deserve to be fired or whatever. This is this guy's whole job, and he's supposed to be like a diversity guy.
Yeah, how does attacking workers promote diversity, equity, and inclusion? There it is in the nutshell. There's the contradiction and how it's bullshit. Now, when Peterson said something about corporations hiring incompetent people and promoting incompetent people, well, okay, yeah.
That's always happened.
That's always happened. I mean, the Peter principle, that's been known for a long, long time. Most people, most working people know plenty of folks who are in management who are total morons.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that's why they got promoted to management, right? Because they would just do as they were told. They didn't mind, compromising their ethics. They weren't going to make any waves. Like, none of that's new. There was a comment from Rai that I really like, saying that the right wing doesn't like wokeness because they see it as unifying disparate groups of people, while neoliberals try to use it to outflank labor on civil rights issues. It leads to this bizarre stuff, and I think that's very true. That's a good comment, and I think that's where sometimes we get bogged down in these debates because you have it coming from different directions for different agendas.
Right. In the next clip, Jordan Peterson, in his free market worship, which is funny because he's supposed to be like a Christian or something, but in his worship of the market, he misquotes Adam Smith, and so that's pretty funny. So let's play this clip about the invisible hand.
Likely counterproductive in an absolute sense. We have a decentralized free market economy so that the invisible hand, which is actually a gigantic distributed computational system, calculating adaptation to the transforming horizon of the future, so that the invisible hand, the free choice of product and occupation characterizing billions of people, can guide us as unerringly and selfishly, thank God for that, as possible into the future. And this simply cannot be replaced by the utopian hand-waving of centralist, globalist planners, even if they are blessed with the charisma and brilliance of that consummate conference organizer, Klaus Schwab.
I also want to make note of the fact that this really feels like a spoken word poem kind of thing, which is funny because of like right-wing disdain for anything that might feel, artsy-fartsy. Because there's definitely some really intentional alliterations and wordplay and, very, very much like you could imagine this shortened, obviously, at an open mic night as a spoken word kind of rant poem.
Yeah, well, it's pretty abstract because he's just throwing random phrases and names and ideologies together in a way that does not actually compute. He's that classic dumb guy who knows how to try to sound smart for other dumb guys. That's kind of how he comes across to me. And, obviously I'm biased, but I'm trying to hear him. I'm trying to hear what he has to say because obviously he reaches people. He has a following. And, it seems to me that a lot of young men who are going through political exploration or just kind of trying to find themselves in the world and what they believe and what they think. He really seems to have targeted that audience. But
yeah, well,
I feel like any degree of like real scrutiny though, and on the substance of what he's saying, can't hold up.
And, the idea that the market is taking us unerringly into the future or as unerringly as possible is just bizarre to anybody that has spent any amount of time in, the real world workplace that the free market creates. Pretty weird thing to imagine that this is the future that we have been brought unerringly to by the free market. But he mentions the invisible hand in a way that was the phrase was coined by Adam Smith, and he's using it in the totally wrong way. So let's check out, because this is something that Chomsky hits on a lot. So I pulled this clip from an interview with Chomsky, and let's play that and figure out what the invisible hand is actually about.
Smith is very rarely read. He's worshipped, but not read. So, for example, everyone's heard of the phrase invisible hand, but almost no one knows how he used it. The term invisible hand actually does appear in his classic Wealth of Nations once. It appears in an argument against what's now called neoliberalism, what's now called neoclassical economics that we're supposed to worship. So we're supposed to worship Adam Smith and neoclassical economics, and they radically differ on the notion invisible hand. Adam Smith was concerned, as David Ricardo later was, that if there was free movement of capital and free import of goods, he was concerned about England. He said England will suffer because British capitalists will invest abroad and they'll import from abroad, and that'll harm the English economy. Ricardo had similar concerns. And Adam Smith then gave an argument. It was not a very good argument, but his argument was that English investors will prefer to invest in England because of what some called a home bias. They'll have a preference for investing close by, and therefore, as if by an invisible hand, England will be saved from the menace of free capital movement and of free imports. That's invisible hand. What's that got to do with the Cato Institute or the modern enthusiasm about free capital flow and having U.S. corporations invest in China so they can send stuff back here to sell cheap, exploiting Chinese workers? That's not Adam Smith, and it goes right across the board.
So I think that that's just one thing that he clearly, has not read kind of the source material there.
Well, I mean, and that's not the only thing, because one thing I am familiar with is I know he had a debate
with Zizek.
Yes, he had a debate with him, and if I'm not mistaken, he certainly revealed in his performance that he had never actually read Marx, but I think he actually came out and said that he hadn't actually read any Marx. So, for a man who loves to call all sorts of things Marxist, it might help if you actually know what that means.
Yeah.
By the way, we have a call. Well, never mind. We did have a caller on the line. Looks like we lost our caller. So if you were trying to reach us, give us a call. I'll put you on. Sorry if I overlooked you.
Yeah. No, I saw that, and I was gonna get through this and then get to him. We've only got a couple more clips left, but yeah, if you want to call in just a few more minutes. But yeah, so given all of this, all these problems that he has with CEOs, here is where he begins to give them some advice. Let's go to that next clip.
And so, CEOs, you need to shed your guilt. You are evil capitalists, just as charged. You've worked your whole life to be precisely that. Are you going to capitulate now in the face of social criticism and disavow everything you have done? Instead, you should wear that badge proudly, evil capitalist, recognizing explicitly that there is simply no better alternative.
Well, he's throwing back to old Maggie Thatcher. There is no alternative. Evil capitalism, the best we can do.
Yeah.
How's that for a slogan?
Yeah. I don't know. That's pretty wild. And the idea, again, he's saying, why would you throw away or disavow everything that you've done? The thing that he's saying is indicative of their disavowal, again, is them using HR departments as cover for their evil capitalism that they're doing, right? That is the thing that he's saying is them disavowing their, capitalist
and most
motivations.
of the CEOs who he may be referring to would probably laugh their ass off hearing this video.
Yeah.
Like this guy doesn't even get what we're doing.
Right.
He's not in on the game.
Yeah. And let's play this next clip.
Why are you kowtowing to those who despise your companies and your accomplishments? Perhaps it's genuine guilt. The conscientious strivers who often come to occupy positions of authority in conservative corporate institutions are dutiful, industrious, orderly, and hardworking. This also makes them guilt-prone.
Really,
That's a pretty interesting description of CEOs.
Yeah,
and bosses.
Can't say I've run into a lot of guilt-prone bosses. In fact, their lack of guilt is what helped them rise to the top.
Right. Well, speaking of rising to the top, he feels pretty confident that they deserve to be there. And let's play this final clip.
And even more so, as it's too much for CEOs and other denizens of the executive suite to request. So, stop saving the world with the centralizers, globalists, narcissists, and eternal builders of the Tower of Babel. Stand forth instead, as I said, as proudly evil capitalists. Do your fiduciary duty. Provide your customers and clients with what they need and want, and let the great invisible hand, that immense computational device, play its necessary role. Make your enterprise productive and profitable. Make yourself generous and abide by the dictates of your conscience. Do enough signal good so that your great wealth rests lightly on your shoulders. This is a more difficult task, take note, than generating that wealth itself. Put the human resources DIE personnel back in their place. Stop hosting faux democratic town halls. Since when do you care what the stock boys think? In a few decades, if they have the fortitude, ability, and industriousness, they will be sitting in your hard-won place and making the decisions that you are currently charged with making. Did you not earn that right? Then why forego it under moral pressure? And if the answer is guilty conscience, then straighten yourself out. Get your oppressive superego under control. Or stop doing those possibly terrible and unworthy things.
So that's pretty interesting.
Oh, the stock boys.
I mean, there's so much there. Maybe I should have cut that up. But the idea that they earned their place, the idea that the idea that the bosses should listen to their workers is spewed with such contempt, like contempt for the idea that workers ought to have any say in their workplace. Is just astounding. Like, most of the people that are going to be listening to this are going to be workers. Most of the people that are going to be listening to him are not going to be bosses. They're going to be people who go into work, who clock in and clock out and have to answer to somebody. How do you not hear what he's saying?
And feel that contempt.
And feel that contempt for you.
Yeah.
As the metaphorical stock boy. How do you not feel the contempt that he has for the order takers?
Oh, you lords and nobles, how dare you ever listen to a peasant?
And again, he's saying like these faux democratic town halls. He almost seems like he gets it for a second by saying faux democratic town halls, because these democratic town halls that people like Howard Schultz and all these others are putting on are just that. They're faux.
They're bullshit.
They're bullshit.
That's true. Totally true.
They are just a mask. They're just a shield, something that they can point to say, look how progressive and woke I am. You don't need higher wages because you got to talk to me at a town hall. Or better yet, you got to have an empty chair represent you at our at our board meetings like Starbucks does. It's just a game. It's just a game. And it's just bizarre. And then, the bit about, okay, the stock boy might be taking your place in so many years if they're industrious enough. I mean, there are only so many CEO positions. They will not all be CEOs, no matter how industrious they are.
Well, folks like to think they're the elite of the elite. And I imagine, like you said, he's the majority of the people who are going to listen to this video are probably just like the majority of the people in this country, which are working class. But I think my guess is he's trying to kind of talk to them as if, hey, if you're not elite yet, you could be.
Right.
You could be one of these elite evil capitalists, and you should be proud of that.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's bizarre.
It is, and I this is probably the most I've really engaged with Jordan Peterson content. Can't say I'm impressed.
Yeah.
The fact that this guy has an audience, quite a disturbing reflection of the state of our public dialogue.
So here's where we'll end it for if there's been any Jordan Peterson fans that have made it this far, that made it through a 30-minute critique of his message to CEOs. I appreciate your time. I really do. I appreciate you, unlike Jordan Peterson, believing that the input of workers, of people who are at the bottom rung, people like me and Adam, that what we have to say is important enough to listen to. Jordan Peterson doesn't think that. And what I would want to say to you is that what you have to say about the work that you do does matter. I believe that the people who put in the work, the people like down in Brookwood, the coal miners who are on strike, the people who actually bring the coal out of the ground, they should have some say over their workplace. The Starbucks baristas who we're about to go see down in Scottsboro, who the company is retaliating against them while they're hiding behind a progressive veneer through these Democratic town halls. The Starbucks baristas who actually make you your coffee should have some say in the running of their business. You, whatever work that you do, because you're almost certainly a worker and you're not a boss if you're listening to this, just by the nature of statistics and how many workers and how many bosses there are. The workers who actually do the work, the workers who make the world run, the workers who run the businesses, and you could do it without your boss, and you do it without your boss every day, I'm sure, in most workplaces. You deserve a say, and it's not bad for you to have a say. In fact, it might even make your business more profitable for you to have some amount of say. And even if it doesn't make it more profitable, it will probably make it more productive. And even if it doesn't do that, productivity and profitability are not the end-all be-all. I don't think that. I think that worker human well-being is going to be the end-all be-all. And that's what we should be striving towards. And workers having a say in their workplace is going to do more of that. And all of this that he's talking about, the HR departments, the woke diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, the environmental, social, and governance stuff, all of this is a veneer that bosses are trying to put over their businesses to try to shield themselves from public backlash about the way that they treat their workers and the things that they try to do to their consumers by giving them unsafe products and giving workers unsafe working conditions. That's not actually what the left or workers would advocate, is for these management initiatives. It's for workers to have a say. And you can do that through unionization. You can do that without your boss's permission. You can do that with your coworkers and take some amount of control back from the bosses because they haven't earned it and they don't deserve it. That's going to be it, I think. I don't have anything else.
I just wanted to give another shout out to the Scottsboro Starbucks workers GoFundMe. Let me see if I can give you guys the URL. I think Jacob already put it in the chat, but as we mentioned, a couple of our folks have been terminated, almost certainly in retaliation for their union organizing activities. And so if you can spare a couple bucks, that would be great. I will put the link in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, and they've got a smaller link that I'll read off to you. It is bit.ly/Scottsboro-relief. bit.ly/Scottsboro-relief.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got a couple bucks you could spare, that would be great. I think it's important that when our fellow workers stand up and take a risk, that we have their back, because corporations like Starbucks are counting on us to not do that.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And I just want to thank everyone who's tuned in today and everyone who's been chatting today. Really appreciate your stuff. As always, I've learned from your commentary. Encourage you to keep it coming.
We'll see y'all next week.